How's it going, everyone? This is Eric Rodriguez from Adobe at Arizona, and today we're going to be going over how to retouch images in Adobe Photoshop. So to get started here, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer, and now we're going to go and select the spot healing brush. Now the keyboard shortcut for that is J, and what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on this guy's face here. And we're going to resize our brush using the left bracket key to make it smaller, or the right bracket key to make it bigger. And we're just going to go around and start clicking on a few of the blemishes he has here. And so what spot healing brush is going to do is it's going to analyze the pixels where we're clicking and try to correct any of the blemishes we select. So we're just going to resize again, select a few more. Just light clicks here and there. And now what we can also do is say, for example, we don't really want his piercing in the picture. What we can do is click and drag and select the entire piercing, and you'll notice that spot healing brush is just going to go and correct that, and we can click a little bit just to correct it a bit more, and there we go. Another reason why we made this first layer here is just so that all of our changes are non-destructive. So you'll notice that if I hide this layer, all of the changes I made with the spot healing brush tool are now back. I'll go ahead and make this visible again. And now, let's say for example, I wanted to bring back the piercing but keep these changes that I made on his face. What I can do is actually select the eraser tool, keyboard shortcut for that is Z, and go to where the piercing is with this top layer selected, and just erase over it. And you'll notice that it'll only bring back the piercing but keep the rest of my changes as they were. Now moving forward, we're going to be using the clone stamp tool. Now the keyboard shortcut for that is S. Now you can think of the clone stamp tool as sort of being a manual spot healing brush tool. Now what I mean by that is that the spot healing brush tool sort of works on its own, but the clone stamp tool has a origin point that you set. So if we just hold Option on our keyboard and click on this door, that'll now be the source for the clone stamp tool. So once I start brushing over the stairs painted section here, you'll notice that there's a second cursor at the bottom, and that's showing where the brush is pulling information from to fill in the stairs that I'm brushing over. And now if I were to select the wall, I would go ahead and use the wall to paint over, and so forth. Now let's say I wanted to completely get rid of this door. I could use the spot healing brush tool and the clone stamp tool, but that would just take too long and honestly wouldn't look that great in the end. So what I'm going to do instead is use the quick selection tool, bring that up with W on the keyboard, and I'm just going to go ahead and select the entire door. Now once that's selected, I'm going to go up to Edit and go down to Content Aware Fill. And our screen is changed, and you'll notice that there's a screen section on the left and a preview of our changes on the right. So if we look at the preview, you'll see that there's a bit of a rough edge around there. And to correct that, I'm going to be using the lasso tool, and I'm just going to go around and extend the edges of my selection to incorporate some of the wall. And you'll notice that as I'm doing that, the edges here are sort of disappearing. So what does this green area mean? Basically, this green area is all the places that Content Aware Fill is pulling in information to make corrections from. So if we use the brush tool here, you'll see that in the preview, this sort of faucet appears. And now with this brush selected, if I were to deselect that part, you'll notice that it's now gone. So we can further make adjustments to this by getting rid of the street, just because we don't really need to know what the street looks like to fill in part of the wall there. We'll get rid of the door as well. And you can see that that's looking a lot better now. And if we hit OK, this is what our new changes look like. To go ahead and correct this further, we're going to be using the clone stamp tool once again. So we're just going to go ahead and select the edge of the wall here as our origin point. And we're going to go ahead and paint over this. We're going to select some parts of the wall as well. Just brush it in. And you'll see that looks a lot better now. It looks like the door was never even here to begin with. And now another good use of content aware in Photoshop would be the ability to change aspect ratios for pictures such as this. And now what I mean by that is, say that we wanted to stretch out this picture to make it fill in this new aspect ratio. You'll notice that if I use the transform tools and stretch it out, that'll warp our subject in the middle there. So that just won't look good. But a way around this would be to first of all use the rectangular marquee tool to make a selection. And we're just going to go ahead and select the edges right up to her hand there. Now with that selected, we're going to go back into edit and we're going to select content aware scale. And now you'll notice that the transformation tools pop up, and if we hold shift and drag this out, content aware scale is going to do its best to fill in this image with the least amount of warping as possible. So I've got that side done. Now I'm going to go ahead and select this other side once more. Content aware scale, and we'll stretch that out too. And now you'll notice that we've completely changed the aspect ratio of this image with no warping to our subject here. I'd like to thank you guys for watching our tutorial. For more tutorials and content, be sure to head over to adobe.arizona.edu.